You think people disrespect you because they lack manners. They don't. They do it because you trained them to. Your maturity is the permission slip they're using against you. You think disrespect is personal. You think someone interrupts you because they're rude. Someone ignores your message because they're careless. Someone talks over you because they're arrogant. That interpretation protects your ego, but it blinds you to the real mechanism. Disrespect is rarely emotional. It is structural. It follows signals. And most of the time, those signals are coming from you. Hierarchy does not operate on intention. It operates on response. When someone lightly challenges you, cuts you off mid-sentence, questions your decision in front of others, jokes at your expense, the moment that follows is not social. It is diagnostic. The room is not watching the challenger. The room is watching you. Your reaction becomes data. If you absorb it without correction, that absorption is recorded. If you laugh it off to keep peace, that peace is recorded. If you over-explain to prove you're reasonable, that reason is recorded. You think you are being mature. The system reads you as safe, and safe men are tested. This is where weak men misunderstand the game. They believe respect is a moral reward for being decent. They believe consistency, kindness, and patience will eventually be recognized and reciprocated. That belief belongs in classrooms, not hierarchies. In real social structures, workplaces, friend groups, relationships, rank is determined by what happens when pressure is applied. Pressure reveals cost. Cost reveals position. If applying pressure to you produces no consequence, your position lowers automatically. No meeting is called. No announcement is made. The shift is silent. Imagine a predator nudging a fence. If the fence doesn't move, it walks away. If the fence bends, it pushes again. It doesn't hate the fence. It simply tests its strength. Humans do the same thing. A small interruption, a delayed reply, a dismissive tone. These are not accidents. They are micro-tests. Most are unconscious. The brain constantly scans for efficiency: who resists, who absorbs, who enforces, who negotiates. When you absorb, people learn. You don't lose respect in one dramatic moment. You lose it in fractions, in hesitations, in swallowed reactions, in forced smiles. You tell yourself you're above it. You don't want to seem insecure. You don't want conflict. You don't want to look aggressive. But hierarchy doesn't reward restraint without established dominance. It rewards clarity. If you have not established cost, restraint looks like inability. That is the inversion weak men refuse to accept. What feels noble internally can look powerless externally. You might say, I don't care about status. That sounds evolved, detached, mature. But the environment cares. And the environment reacts to signals whether you participate consciously or not. When someone challenges you publicly and you respond with over-explanation, you collapse the hierarchy into negotiation. You signal that your authority requires approval. Approval seeking is submission disguised as communication. When someone makes a subtle joke at your expense and you laugh harder than anyone else, you remove the tension for them. You show that crossing you is safe terrain. When someone interrupts you and you stop speaking, you teach them that your voice yields under pressure. These moments are small. That's why they're dangerous. You don't notice the pattern forming. But others do. Observers are always present, even when silent. They recalibrate based on outcomes. They don't need to consciously judge you. Their nervous systems update automatically. Next time, they push slightly further, not maliciously. Logically, hierarchy seeks the path of least resistance. Weakness is not loud, it is permissive. You think you're keeping the peace. In reality, you are lowering the cost of disrespect. And once the cost is low enough, disrespect stops feeling like a risk. It becomes routine. The tragedy is that weak men rarely see the exact moment it shifts. They only notice the accumulation. They wake up one day feeling talked over, sidelined, replaceable. By then, the training is complete. And the trainer was you. Disrespect spreads through reinforcement, not emotion, not intention, reinforcement. Every time someone applies pressure to you, the brain is running a simple calculation. What happens if I do this? That calculation is not philosophical, it is mechanical. The outcome determines the next move. If someone interrupts you and nothing changes, interruption becomes efficient. If someone challenges you publicly and you explain yourself, public challenge becomes profitable. If someone dismisses your idea and you retreat, dismissal becomes low cost. Human beings repeat what works. This is the conditioning loop weak men never see. A small test occurs. You respond with absorption instead of friction. The brain records that outcome. The next test increases slightly. Your response remains soft. The system updates again. Over time, what began as a minor probe becomes normalized behavior. You think they've changed. They haven't. The incentives have. Most tests are subtle. They arrive disguised as jokes, misunderstandings, or personality differences. That disguise makes them deniable, and deniability is what traps you. You hesitate because you don't want to overreact. You don't want to look insecure. You don't want to create tension over something small. But small is how conditioning begins. Consider how animals are trained, not through dramatic punishment, but through repeated patterns: action, response, adjustment, repeat. Social hierarchies operate the same way. When you over-explain yourself, you are rewarding the challenger with attention. When you apologize for things that require no apology, you are lowering your own perceived rank. When you delay correcting a boundary, you are teaching others that timing does not matter around you. You believe you are being patient. The system reads you as negotiable. There's a difference between emotional control and passive absorption. Strong men appear calm because enforcement has already been established. Weak men appear calm because they avoid enforcement entirely. Outwardly, the behavior can look identical. Internally, the signal is completely different. If pressure meets resistance, the loop ends. If pressure meets softness, the loop strengthens. You might think people consciously decide to disrespect you. That is flattering. It implies they are plotting against you. Most of the time, they are simply following efficiency. The brain is wired to move toward what is easy and away from what is costly. If speaking over you produces no consequence, speaking over you becomes easier each time. If dismissing your opinion results in no structural change, dismissal becomes the default. Eventually, even you begin to comply with the pattern. You speak less, you soften your opinions. You anticipate interruption and shorten your sentences. You over-qualify your statements so they sound less confrontational. This is where conditioning becomes internalized. You start adjusting before anyone pushes. Now the hierarchy doesn't even need to test you. You are testing yourself. Weakness compounds because it is rarely corrected early. The first moment someone crosses a line is the cheapest moment to respond. After 3, 4, 5 repetitions, the cost of correction rises dramatically. Now if you enforce, you look reactive, emotional, out of character. The group resists not because you are wrong, but because you trained them differently. Consistency is what installs authority. Inconsistency is what destroys it. When your reactions change based on mood, audience, or discomfort, people learn that your boundaries are flexible. Flexible boundaries invite exploration. This is not cruelty. It is adaptation. Humans are constantly mapping power. Who speaks last? Who interrupts whom? Who apologizes first? Who laughs the loudest after being insulted? These details form an invisible scoreboard. You cannot opt out of being ranked. You can only influence the signals you send. The conditioning mechanism is indifferent to your self-image. It does not care if you think of yourself as strong. It cares about what happens when pressure touches you. If nothing happens, the lesson is clear, and once learned, it spreads. Weakness rarely announces itself. It disguises itself as virtue. It wears the mask of patience, emotional intelligence, understanding. It sounds reasonable. It looks controlled. That's why it spreads unnoticed. There is a pattern to the men who train others to disrespect them. Not because they are evil, not because they are evil, not because they are stupid, but because they repeat behaviors that lower their rank while believing they are raising it. The first type is the pleaser. He believes harmony equals strength. He smooths tension before it forms. He laughs first when someone jokes at his expense. He rushes to agree so no one feels uncomfortable. He thinks this makes him likable. What it actually does is remove friction, and friction is what signals boundaries. When the pleaser is lightly disrespected, he absorbs it instantly. His reflex is to maintain atmosphere, not position. Over time, people stop adjusting around him. They adjust through him. He becomes socially convenient. The second type is the explainer. This man believes clarity will save him. When challenged, he expands. He adds context. He justifies decisions. He offers reasoning even when none is required. His logic is solid. His tone is calm, but explanation under pressure implies doubt. Authority does not require permission. The explainer behaves as if it does. Each extra sentence lowers the perceived cost of questioning him. Soon, every statement he makes invites debate. He confuses intelligence with leverage. The third type is the silent absorber. He prides himself on emotional control. When disrespected, he says nothing. He tells himself he is above pettiness. He doesn't react to jabs. He believes silence makes him intimidating, but silence without established dominance is read as tolerance. Tolerance lowers the price of escalation. The silent absorber accumulates resentment internally while broadcasting passivity externally. Others interpret his stillness as compliance. The next test comes slightly harder, then harder again. By the time he reacts, the pattern is already installed. The fourth type is the over-apologizer. He apologizes for delays that weren't his fault, for misunderstandings he didn't create, for taking up space, for speaking too directly, for existing too strongly. He believes this makes him accountable. What it actually signals is lower rank. Apology is a powerful tool when used strategically, but when it becomes habitual, it reframes every interaction as if he is slightly at fault. People begin to expect concession from him. They lean into it. The final type is the validation seeker. He wants to be seen as fair, balanced, mature. He asks for feedback constantly. He checks if everyone is comfortable. He measures his behavior against approval. He doesn't realize that authority collapses when it chases consensus. The validation seeker does not enforce, he negotiates. And negotiation under pressure signals equality at best, inferiority at worst. All these patterns share one trait: they prioritize perception over position. These men fear being seen as aggressive more than they fear being ranked lower. They would rather protect their self-image than enforce a boundary. Hierarchy does not reward self-image. It rewards behavioral consistency. What makes these archetypes dangerous is that they feel good internally. They allow you to believe you are disciplined, evolved, emotionally intelligent. But the external system does not care about your intentions. It cares about outcomes. If people interrupt you consistently, your pattern allowed it. If they challenge you publicly without hesitation, your behavior trained it. If they push limits casually, your enforcement was inconsistent. Weakness is not volume, it is permissiveness. The pleaser, the explainer, the silent absorber, the over-apologizer, the validation seeker. None of them intend to lower their status, but intention is irrelevant. Behavior installs rank, and once installed, it is hard to remove. Disrespect does not explode, it spreads. It moves the way rust moves across metal, slow, almost invisible, until the structure weakens under weight. By the time collapse becomes obvious, the damage has already been done. Weak men look for dramatic betrayals. They expect one clear moment where someone crosses a line and everything changes. Real hierarchy shifts don't work like that. They operate through accumulation. One joke that went unchecked, one interruption you allowed, one public disagreement you softened instead of closing. None of these seem fatal alone. Together, they recalibrate the room. Human beings are constantly scanning for rank, not consciously, not maliciously, structurally. Who corrects behavior, who absorbs it? Who shifts tone when challenged? Who maintains frame under pressure? These micro-observations form a silent ledger. If pressure applied to you produces hesitation, the ledger updates. If correction comes late or emotionally, The ledger updates again. If enforcement is inconsistent, the environment begins to test more efficiently. Hierarchy is adaptive. It moves towards stability, and stability is defined by clarity of cost. When cost is unclear, probing continues. When cost is low, escalation begins. When cost is absent, replacement becomes logical. Look at how power shifts in any group, corporate teams, friend circles, even families. The man who tolerates small infractions becomes the man others speak over. The man who avoids tension becomes the man excluded from final decisions. The man who values harmony over enforcement becomes decorative. He is still present, but he is no longer central. This is not cruelty, it is optimization. Groups do not consciously gather and vote to lower your status. They adjust subconsciously to the person who creates the least resistance. Energy flows toward what is efficient. If challenging you carries no consequence, others will naturally align with the person whose boundaries hold. History reflects this pattern repeatedly. Leaders are not removed only when they are incompetent. They are removed when their enforcement weakens, when hesitation becomes visible, when correction comes too late. The perception of strength decays before authority does. Once decay begins, it accelerates. Once decay begins, it accelerates. Observers matter more than challengers. A challenger tests you. Observers decide whether to recalibrate around you. If observers see you absorb pressure, they quietly shift allegiance, not necessarily to a rival, but away from you. Distance forms first, then indifference, then bypass. You notice it in subtle ways. People stop seeking your input. Decisions happen without your awareness. Your absence creates no tension. That is the stage most men misinterpret. They think things are calm. They think conflict has disappeared. In reality, they have been downgraded. The most dangerous phase is silent erosion. There is no confrontation, no rebellion, no dramatic scene, just a gradual reduction of deference. Once that threshold is crossed, reclaiming authority becomes expensive. Any sudden attempt to enforce now appears reactive, out of character. The group resists not because you are wrong, but because you allowed a different norm to form. Norms solidify quickly, and humans defend norms. This is why early enforcement is surgical and quiet, while late enforcement becomes loud and disruptive. Weak men wait for certainty. They want undeniable proof before responding, but hierarchy punishes delay. The first boundary violation is the cheapest moment to correct. The fifth is politically expensive. By then, others have internalized your softness. Replacement does not always mean someone takes your position formally. Sometimes it means your influence shrinks, your voice carries less weight, your presence becomes optional, you remain visible. But you are no longer influential. That is erasure. The tragedy is that most men see the final outcome and blame personality clashes, toxic environments, bad luck. They rarely trace it back to the early moments where cost was not established. Disrespect is rarely born in hostility. It is cultivated in tolerance, and once cultivated, it grows on its own. The pattern does not break with emotion, it breaks with precision. If you try to fix disrespect with anger, you look unstable. If you try to fix it with speeches, you look defensive. If you try to fix it with friendliness, you reinforce the same weakness that caused it. Correction must be surgical. The first rule is speed. When a boundary is crossed, the response must be immediate, not loud, not dramatic, immediate. Delay creates ambiguity. Ambiguity invites interpretation. Interpretation weakens authority. A clean, calm interruption in the moment does more than a passionate speech 10 minutes later. The second rule is compression. Weak men expand under pressure. Strong men reduce. Fewer words, shorter sentences, direct tone. When someone challenges you publicly, the worst move is to explain your reasoning in detail. Explanation signals negotiation. Correction signals hierarchy. A brief statement that closes the frame is enough, not emotional. Not aggressive, just final. The third rule is asymmetry. Do not mirror the challenger's energy. If they become animated, you become still. If they raise their voice, you lower yours. If they joke, you do not laugh. You look at them until the joke collapses. Asymmetry creates imbalance, and imbalance exposes overreach. When you match their energy, you validate the exchange. When you remain centered, you shift the focus onto them. The fourth rule is consequence without theatrics. You do not need to humiliate someone. You need to alter the structure. If someone repeatedly interrupts, stop yielding the floor. If someone questions you publicly without basis, move the conversation back to the decision and continue. Consistency is the weapon. People adjust when the environment becomes predictable. If every time pressure touches you, it meets calm resistance, the brain recalculates. Testing you becomes inefficient. The fifth rule is selective enforcement. Not every comment deserves response. Over-correction makes you look insecure, but repeated behavior, especially in public settings, must be addressed. Pattern recognition matters. If it happens once and never again, it may not be worth energy. If it repeats, it is a training loop, and loops must be interrupted early. The sixth rule is emotional neutrality. Correction delivered with visible anger feels personal. Correction delivered without emotional leakage feels structural. You are not reacting because you are hurt. You are responding because order matters. That difference is everything. Most weak men fail here because they still want to be liked while correcting behavior. They soften their tone. They add smiles. They dilute their enforcement to protect their image. That dilution destroys the effect. Authority is not hostility. It is clarity. When your posture remains stable, your eye contact steady, your words minimal, people feel the cost without needing to be threatened. Over time, something shifts. Interruptions decrease. Jokes at your expense fade. Public challenges become rarer, not because you intimidated anyone, but because you removed efficiency. The environment always moves toward the lowest friction. If you become friction when boundaries are crossed, pressure redirects elsewhere. This is not about dominating every room. It is about eliminating permissiveness. Once that shift occurs, enforcement becomes less frequent. Your presence alone carries memory. People remember what happened the last time they crossed a line, and memory maintains hierarchy better than aggression ever could. The hardest part is not correcting others. It is killing the version of yourself that needed their approval. Most weak men understand tactics. They can learn to speak less, enforce faster, hold eye contact longer. But beneath all of that sits a deeper addiction, the need to be perceived as good. Good, fair, mature, reasonable. That identity is comfortable. It feels moral. It earns smiles. It avoids conflict. And it destroys sovereignty. As long as you need to be seen as harmless, you will dilute your enforcement. As long as you fear being labeled aggressive, you will hesitate when correction is required. As long as you measure yourself by how many people like you, you will negotiate your own boundaries. Hierarchy senses that hesitation instantly. The old identity whispers, "Don't make this awkward." The sovereign identity asks, "What does this behavior cost?" These two cannot coexist. The man who trained others to disrespect him did so because he prioritized comfort over clarity. He chose atmosphere over authority. He chose perception over position. Killing that version requires loss. You will lose casual approval. You will lose effortless likability. You may lose certain people who benefited from your softness. That is not punishment. That is selection. When you stop absorbing disrespect, some individuals feel friction for the first time. They may call you different, colder, changed. They are correct. You change the cost structure. Weak men retreat at this stage. They see discomfort and interpret it as failure. They revert to old behaviors to restore familiarity. Strong men endure the transition because they understand that respect is rarely comfortable at first. It is established through consistency, not charm. You must detach from the need to explain your shift. Do not announce that you are working on boundaries. Do not justify why you respond differently now. Explanation reopens. Negotiation. Let your behavior speak. Let the pattern update. Over time, the environment recalibrates. Those who adapt remain. Those who cannot adjust distance themselves. This is not about becoming cruel. Cruelty is reactive. It leaks insecurity. This is about becoming immovable. Immovable does not mean loud. It means predictable. When pressure touches you, the outcome is stable, calm correction, clear boundary, no excess emotion. When that becomes consistent, people stop testing not because they fear you, but because testing you wastes energy. The death of the nice identity feels isolating at first. You are no longer chasing smiles. You are no longer cushioning every interaction. You may feel less socially warm, but you will feel grounded. Approval is unstable currency. Respect is structural. When you stop begging for the first, the second becomes possible. Most men will never cross this threshold. They would rather be included than sovereign. They would rather be tolerated than deferred to. If you want hierarchy to treat you differently, you must treat your own comfort as expendable. That is the replacement. Selection never stops. There is no final level where you are safe. No permanent certificate of respect. No moment where hierarchy freezes and decides you are untouchable. Every interaction is an update. The mistake weak men make is believing that once they fix their behavior, the work is done. They enforce once, feel powerful for a week, then slowly relax. They slip back into over-explaining. They let small infractions pass because they are tired. They absorb one joke to keep the mood light, and the system begins recalculating again. Hierarchy is not emotional. It is continuous measurement. Who corrects immediately? Who hesitates? Who stays consistent under stress? Who changes behavior when watched? You are always being measured, especially when nothing dramatic is happening. The moment you assume stability, erosion begins. Strong positioning is not built on intensity. It is built on repetition. Calm enforcement repeated so many times that the environment internalizes it. When people predict the cost of crossing you without needing a reminder, you have reached structural respect. But if you become inconsistent, even briefly, you reopen the door. This is why discipline matters more than dominance. Dominance is visible. Discipline is invisible. Dominance can be faked for a day. Discipline is revealed over months. Weak men seek dramatic moments. They want to prove strength in a confrontation. They want one powerful exchange that reestablishes their position. Real authority is quieter than that. It is the accumulation of small, consistent corrections that prevent confrontations from ever forming. You will still be tested, occasionally, subtly, especially when new people enter your environment, especially when stress rises, especially when you appear distracted. Those moments are not attacks, they are filters, and filters do not stop working because you feel tired. If you fail a filter once, the cost is small. If you fail repeatedly, the recalibration accelerates. Most men do not fall from power because they lack intelligence. They fall because they crave comfort. They want to relax their guard. They want to return to being liked. They want to believe the hierarchy is no longer active. It is always active, even in silence. If people lower their tone when you speak, that is measurement. If they wait before interrupting, that is measurement. If they adjust posture in your presence, that is measurement. These are not gifts. They are responses to consistency. The moment your consistency breaks, those responses fade. You are not fighting people. You are managing perception under pressure. If you train others to disrespect you, they will. If you retrain them with calm, unwavering correction, they will adapt. And if you stop maintaining that standard, they will test again. Selection is ongoing. You either shape the environment deliberately or the environment shapes you automatically. There is no neutral position. The men who understand this do not complain about disrespect. They do not blame personalities. They do not search for villains. They adjust their behavior and let the system respond. Weak men demand respect. Strong men install it. And once installed, they maintain it without emotion. That is the difference.